Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Beam Paths Tech Office Hours. Today, we've got Natalie Sharma of Pixel Studios, and she's going to be talking about Freelancing 101. So if you know the Beam Path, you know Natalie. She's been a frequent volunteer with the Beam Path as well as Innovate Mississippi, Mississippi Code Academy. She's a Jackson native, and she has been working at Pixel for about how long now is it, Natalie?
I've been doing that for about 5 years.
And today she's going to talk to us about how to get your operations together, the resources you need to have in place, strategies for gaining clients, things of that nature. So tune in and get ready to learn some really great resources.
All right. You ready for me?
It's all you.
All right. Well, hey, everybody. My name is Natalie Sharma, and I'm going to go ahead and just get all of my stuff pulled up here. So let's get started. Okay. Can everybody see me okay?
If you can see it, yeah.
All right, great. Well, my name is Natalie Sharma. I am the founder and creative director of Pixel. And today we're going to talk about Freelancing 101, tech small business. So just very briefly about me, I'm not going to talk about myself too much. If you've been in the tech and startup scene, you've seen me around. I'm a mentor with Innovate Mississippi, frequent volunteer with the Bean Path, also Mississippi Coding Academies. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you can catch me performing on stage with local community theaters. Not lately, but maybe next year I'll finally get to be on stage again. All right, so I founded Pixel in 2015 after I moved back into my parents' house. I didn't have any savings. I had no plan. I quit my job and just kind of moved back in. Don't recommend this path. I really would recommend you have much more of a plan than I did. I've got about 10 plus years of experience in design. I've been doing this a lot longer than you think. When I started my own business, I did so with about $3,000, give or take, and that was just enough money for a new computer and business registration. That was it. No loans. Didn't have any other help unless you count living with my parents for free. I graduated from Mississippi University for Women with a BFA in design with honors. Very proud of that very small distinction. I did not take a single business class. Everything I know is all through experience and mentorship. I'm very fortunate that almost everyone in my immediate family is self-employed, including my in-laws. So I've had a lot of great resources growing up, showing me the ropes of a business and kind of giving me advice as I've gone along the way. I do want to note that I was not an instant success. Things really changed me when I got very serious about this, but we've got a lot to cover. A lot of what I have is general advice. It's pretty specific to running a digital virtual business. We're going to go fast, so lots to talk about. Take notes. Before we get in, I do want to take a minute to get on my soapbox just for a second. Freelancer is a bad word. I know what you're thinking, but Natalie, this presentation is called Freelancing 101. I said what I said. Freelancer is a bad word. Historically, if you look it up in the dictionary, it refers to a mercenary who does work for the highest bidder. So historically, that's what the word freelancer means. Presently, freelancer has been kind of taken hostage by marketing as a buzzword, and it basically it kind of traps you in a box of working in less than ideal conditions and gunning after the lowest bid for a project. Thanks, Fiverr. I'm gonna shout you out on that one. So really, we want to focus on good words, because if you're paying your own expenses and you pay your own insurance, you are one of these things. You're a consultant, you're a contractor, you're a small business owner. You're the boss here. You're the only one looking out for you. No one else is going to do it. No one is going to tell you you should charge more, unless if they're a really good client. If they do that, you should keep them forever. So you're the one who's calling the shots. You're doing all the things. So let's not use the word freelancer. Let's use one of these instead. So these are the main topics we're going to be focusing on. Our overview of, subjects. We're going to talk about your business itself, the concept, business registration, business documentation, money matters and pricing, networking, and marketing. So 6 very different subjects. We're just kind of hit the high points of each of those. So for your business concept, you should really think hard about where you want to start. What you really want to do in the beginning, this is going to be helpful to you, is really focus down, pick a niche. And what I mean by a niche is like a very specialized selection of products or services, or even clientele. For example, I'm very focused on digital services. So website design, UI design, some branding, but really a lot more in the digital arena, serving software and technology firms and startups. Now, why do we want to do this? First of all, it means we get really, really good at those certain set of skills, working with those certain set of clients. That means we can charge a lot more money. So it really kind of behooves you to start in this space, to kind of niche down, because you become an expert in those areas. And when people know you do those things specifically, they're going to come to you for work. They're going to refer other people to you. We're going to get a little bit conceptual here now. This concept of this diagram is called ikigai. So what you want to do is find that you kind of want to see where all of these different things intersect: your passion, your mission, your profession, and your vocation. This concept basically means like a reason for being. So the reason why you get up in the morning. It's a little bit out there maybe, but it really kind of helps center you to, figure this out for your business and where you want to start. So the questions you want to ask yourself, like, okay, what am I good at? What do I love? What does the world need? And what can I get paid for? So I'll use myself as an example. I'm very good at organizing and untangling big problems. I really love, the internet and design. Those are things I genuinely love. I've been playing with the computer since I was 3 years old and drawing just about as long. I love both of those things. What does the world need? The world really needs good, accessible products, and that's what I want to make. And I can get paid for this. People do this as a real job. And you really want to focus on that last point, is what can you get paid for? There's nothing wrong with honing in on that and saying, hey, what are some things that I can do really well and that I can make money off of? That's okay. This is a business. That's what we're supposed to do. This is something to kind of help you get focused and to kind of center yourself. That doesn't mean that this won't change. This is actually probably the third or fourth rendition of my focus, but I think I'm very happy here in this space. I'm really happy making digital products for digital companies. So now that we've got our business concept and like the idea of what we want to do, we'll have to move into the registration space. Nobody likes to do paperwork. Nobody really likes to talk about the legal part, but this is something that is equally, if not more important, to get right at the beginning. You really want to make sure that you are properly registered and ready for tax season, which is still going on right now. If you want to register a business in Mississippi, it is so cheap. I don't know where everybody else is tuning in from, but to register a business, you just need to sign some paperwork and $50. That's all it costs to register a business in Mississippi. And it's compared to other states. Some states are charging $300 to get started, or there's an annual fee every year. No annual fee in Mississippi. All you have to do is file a little report every March or April. That's it. $50 to get started. I will say that when you register your business and get all this straight, decide as much as you can on your name at the very beginning. It's a huge pain to get it changed later on. I would know. I did this last year, still waiting on my new tax forms. Don't know if I'll ever get that fixed. Also, disclaimer, I should have said this at the beginning. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant. This is just my personal experience. And from what I've seen from Mississippi Business Services, they are specific to your state. So if you're tuning in from somewhere else, the rules and regulations are probably different. Your best bet is to start with your Secretary of State office. And I've included a URL here for the business services sector of Secretary of State. They've all got it laid out pretty well. They've got frequently asked questions, so you can dive in and see where you need to start. After you get registered with this state, you will want to apply for your EIN. So your EIN number is your employee ID number with the IRS. That costs $0. It might take a while because the IRS is kind of hard to get in the phone right now, but you do want to do this the right way, because if you don't have your EIN number and you don't have your paperwork, you can't get a bank account. And one of the main things you want to get right here is keep your business and your personal assets separate. So for a business bank account, you're most likely going to need a tax ID letter from the IRS, and more than likely an LLC operating agreement. LLC is a limited liability company, which is probably the type of business that you'll apply for. Again, you want to consult with an accountant on this. I personally have an LLC S-Corp combo. So again, just, dot your I's, cross your T's, make sure that you're registering for the correct type of business. You may have a different type if you're going with someone else. So, but, once you get that done, that's basically it. You just need to, do your taxes and, check in with the state every year to file an annual report. Pretty easy. Just, you don't want to mess this part up. It's really important. So documentation. So now we've got all the paperwork. There's still more paperwork. You really want to keep yourself in check here. So you've got your business, you're up and running. Before you start securing clients and securing projects, I really want to talk about contracts. You need to have a contract and you should not do work without one. It's not a matter of if it's going to hurt that you work without a contract. It's only a matter of when. This has happened to me many times. It took me at least 2 or 3 years before I had a contract. I don't recommend this at all. I've probably lost thousands of dollars because I had no contract and no leg to stand on. If someone just disappeared, wanted to cancel a project or just didn't want to pay me, I had no paperwork to back that up. So, this is super, super important. You can find templates online. Rocket Lawyer is a really good place to get just a templatized contract. But I'm actually going to show you mine. I've got a blank one prepared that we're going to look at together. So let's get that pulled up here. So this is a template of my real project proposal. This is a real thing that I send to my clients. It's 6 pages long. It's not too long, but I think it should be long enough to really show that I'm thinking really hard about the terms. I want my clients to go in this all in, and I want them to know I'm serious. So these are the type of things I might include. I have a write-up about the business, about their problem, what I'm going to do with my deliverables. I have the project cost right on the first page. I don't want any questions to be about that at all. I also include milestones, which is basically just a listing of major events where we'll hit, and here's some descriptions of each. Well, they're not real descriptions, they're fake, but you get the idea. Is just to kind of lay out each stage of the process so there aren't any questions later on. It's also important to kind of include a timeline. I have like an estimated time. Life happens, things happen. You want to be kind of prepared and have these things just in place. So that way, if something does happen, you have a little bit of a flex room. I just like to have it all in writing because especially if you don't have a maximum amount of edit rounds or a time when this is supposed to end, you could be doing this forever. So you really kind of need to have the parameters set here. And it's okay if they change later on, but you both need to agree on those things. I've got like a small write-up here about myself. I actually just recently added this, but I think it's important. So that way, if someone takes this contract and shares it with the rest of their team, there's information about you in here. And then I've got a spot at the bottom, for extra vendors I might bring on, other contractors who are coming in to work with me. This is more specific if you are a designer or a developer or someone who has a portfolio. I'll probably include a couple relevant pieces just so they can kind of get their bearings of what my style is, so they can make sure that our styles are going to mesh, are going to work together. And specifically for design, that's so important, is that they go into it knowing what they're going to get out of it. The last page is some dreaded terms. I would say by far, this is one of the most important things to have in your contract. Clearly outline responsibilities for you and your client or your customer. Having a major revisions or a restart fee for myself. So if someone kills the project and we start over, there's an extra fee. Payment terms, display of work agreement, because if I can't share my work, I can't get more work. So the default is I share it, unless if you tell me otherwise. If someone approves the estimate, that means they agree to all these terms. And that's why you want to have a contract. So that way you can protect yourself. It's not mean to have a contract. It's to help you. It's to protect you. Because we might think that no one would ever bail on a contract or cancel a project. People will do that. So just go ahead, get out in front of it and make sure that you're protected with a well-rounded contract. All right, let's hop back into the presentation here. Okay, like I said, get everything in writing, absolutely everything. And I don't just mean a contract, I also mean edits or revisions or additional requests. You always want to have that in writing somewhere. Verbal confirmation is not good enough. In the rare instance I'm okay with that, it's a client I've been working with for a very long time. And then I think it's okay. But with a new client, always in writing. Speaking of getting everything in writing, you also want to track all of your metrics. We can't improve our business if we don't know what's working and what's not. So I highly recommend that when you do start taking on clients or start doing services, that you really keep track of your time. And so a free service you could use for this is Clockify. This is not a service that I use. This just seems to be a very popular system where you can make tasks for yourself, assign you can track your time with the amount of time that it took to go with that task. And then you can kind of go back and see, okay, how long did this take? How long did that take? Because then that allows you to adjust your pricing as time goes on. So say, for example, if you used to do a project in this many hours, but now all of a sudden you can do it in less, then maybe you need to revisit how much you're charging for it. Maybe you need to charge more. It's just one of those things that you need to keep track of. Personally, for myself, I'd like to take the all-in-one approach. I use Avaza. So Avaza is an all-in-one customer management platform. I keep track of all my contacts, my tasks, my billing, my invoicing, my expenses, all in one spot. And it spits out custom reports that actually show me, okay, where did I lose money? Where did I blow past the budget? What's not making me money? What is making me money? These are the questions you have to ask yourself is, what is making me money? What am I making the most profit on? You want to focus on those things, because if you're continuing to offer services or take on projects that are eating into your profit margin, you need to let those things go or reassess your pricing. Speaking of pricing, we're going to get into money matters. This is always the hardest part of my job. I would say harder than most for the projects I do, because it's just when people come in and ask me, it's like, well, how much does this cost? Sometimes the answer is, I don't know, but I usually just tell people that the pricing is custom, because it is. Not every project is the same. The parameters are different. So it's really, the best thing to have here is like a starting price. So that way you can kind of give someone a rough ballpark if they ask you about it. So, but how do we figure out our pricing? How do we know how much to charge? $20 an hour, it seems like a lot. And if you were working 40 hours a week, yeah, that might be a decent chunk of change. But I will tell you first, it's not a lot of money. It's really not. You need to charge probably a good bit more than that. I would do this full time. I'm lucky to get 20 to 25 billable hours a week. That doesn't mean that I only work 20 to 25 hours a week. This doesn't include the time that I spend doing other things like managing my own social media, invoicing, having consultations, doing research, attending conferences. That time is not included at all in this. So I might work 40 plus hours in a week, but only half of that is billable. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do some math, my arch nemesis. I hate math, but I love money. I know that makes me sound like Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob. So here's kind of a rough equation of how you can figure out how much you should be charging. Again, this is really just kind of an estimate for yourself. This is based on some research I've done. You want to take your salary, the desired salary that you want, add your overhead, multiply by the profit percentage. So let's say if you want to make 20%, you would add your salary plus your overhead and, times 0.2, add all that back together, divide by your working weeks. You're not going to work 52 weeks a year. You might work like 45, maybe 48, something like that. And then divide by 25. So that's how many hours you're going to work a week. If you're lucky, I would say 25 is pretty high on billable hours. And then from there, you just kind of refine. You try to figure out, okay, does this seem accurate? Does this seem like a good amount to charge? I will say that if someone doesn't push back on your price, then you're probably not charging enough. You kind of want to meet that sweet spot of the person agrees to it, but not too quickly. It's a really hard line to dance. And this does require some research. And it takes a lot of time, like trial and error, trying to figure out what the best amount to charge is. It takes time. I'll be honest, I was charging $20 an hour when I first started out. And it's really not a lot of money. So take it from me that do your homework on this one. This one's very important. Okay, the next aspect of our business, of course, is networking. Telling people that we exist. So you're in business now. You are getting projects, hopefully, and you kind of know how much money you want to charge. So now you need to tell people. And this doesn't always mean going to Google Ads and paying for advertising. This means you need to talk to your own network first. This is your greatest asset. Tell the people that care about you the most. People are rooting for you. They want to help you. Use your own social media if you have to. Which leads me to another point. have separate social media for yourself and for your business. So, tell people to follow your other accounts. Very easy way to get your numbers up that way. Just tell people, it's like, hey, I'm here. I'm doing this thing. Please like my page. Please share my work. People will do it. It's a very low effort thing for them to do, and most likely they'll be happy to do it. Always consult with your own network first. You never know where a referral is going to come from. For example, I have been working in community theater since I was 10 years old. A lot of my referrals from early on in business came from community theater. As weird as that sounds, just because they knew me and they knew my business. So I did a lot of work for community theater for a long time. So, you never know where your next referral can come from. But after you've tapped that out, you need to hunt down your client base and go find them and be present where they are. And what I mean by that is join Facebook groups, find pockets on Instagram, find certain hashtags on Twitter, find groups on Meetup where your client is, be part of the conversation. I don't mean go for a hard sell. It doesn't work that way. You need to build relationships with people and talk to them, comment on what they're doing, find out what their problems are. Just be a person. Be a nice person to other people in the spaces where you want to be getting clients, and the work will come. It's a long game, but if you keep at it and just show up consistently in those same spaces where your ideal client is, the work will come. It may take a while, but I promise you that it really will happen. And another note, I didn't have it on my slide here, virtual conferences, especially in your target area, very cheap or free right now. People are getting burnt out on these things, and more than ever, it's very easy to get yourself out in front of your target client or even speak to titans in industry because, all these conferences are going virtual, and so therefore they're free. So get in there, talk to some people, make some friends. I know it's scary. I don't like networking, but I do it because I have to. So just approach it more on a relationship level. Like you're making a friend first. If work comes out of it, cool. But if not, at least then you have a valuable person in your corner, in your network. And that's what's most important. And if a community doesn't exist for you, make one. You can make a Facebook group or you can make your own Meetup group. It does take work. I'm not going to lie. It takes a lot of work. But if that's really important to you and you feel like this is a niche community that you can make work for you, do it by all means. Sometimes, and Facebook groups, as far as I know, are free. Meetup is not, but if you take the time to really carve out these spaces, eventually they could lead to a lot of work for you. So you never know until you try. But the last aspect that I think I get the most questions about is marketing. And this is a tough one because I'm actually not a marketer at all. I'm a designer first. I do focus a little bit on the science and the metrics, but I'm really not a marketer. So but I do get a lot of questions about this. And your branding and marketing may not be the best when you first start out, unless if that's your service. If I'm a designer, and if my work doesn't look good, that reflects badly on me. But if you aren't working either of those spaces, it's important, but I don't think you should sink all your time and effort into that. The most important thing is that you need to be on target, be focused on who you talk to. So really, it's more important to know your target client, know who they are. And I want to mention that that's not everybody. Really ask yourself, who do I want to work with? Who do I want to do projects for? Look professional, be cohesive, and be consistent. It's less important about looking super cool and shiny, and more important about looking really consistent, being present, and looking professional to the right people. If you kind of have a lot of pizzazz and shininess, but you aren't talking to the people that you want to work with, and you're not present all the time, and it's kind of disjointed, that it doesn't help you at all. So really, you want to make sure that you're very focused and you are talking to the correct people in the right way, in the right amount of time. And one of the nice things about having all these social media access is that you can easily find other people in your niche and have something to aspire to be. I have my own people that I look up to and aspire to be. And it's fine to follow those people, emulate what they're doing. And even if you want, ask them questions. They might have some good advice for you. You never know till you ask. It doesn't hurt to ask someone. The worst they can say is no. Wow. Okay. That was a lot of information. It's a lot. Running your own business it's a huge learning experience. Even after doing this for 5 years, I still mess things up. I still get things wrong. The important thing is that you don't stop learning, and you make sure to consult with other people. Talk to your peers, reach out to your network, find your community. So in case anything else didn't stick, here's some important closing points. For your business, your concept, stay specific and focused in the beginning. This will help you later on. Registration, be legit with the state and the bank. Make sure you're straight with both, because if you don't do this right, it's going to be a huge pain later on when you have to file taxes. And especially now with the IRS being unavailable by phone, good luck. So get this part right. Documentation, track it all in writing, write everything down. Even if it's on a piece of paper, that's fine. But even better, put it in a system somewhere so you can see it and track your own metrics and your successes. Money matters. Don't undersell yourself, making sure that you're making enough money to live on. Stand firm in your value. Networking. People around you really do want to help, and you never know until you ask. People are there. They want to help you out. Marketing, stay consistent and present. Like I said, less flash, more focus, more consistently. All right, that's it for me. Again, my name is Natalie Sharma. You can email me personally, natalie@pixetal.com. Happy to answer questions. You can also find me on almost everywhere as Pixetal on social media. I cannot get Pixetal on Instagram. Hopefully I will one day. I try every day to get it, still haven't. But yeah, that's it for me. Any questions, drop them in the chat.
We've got a lot of questions. That was amazing.
Okay.
Thank you so much. It was really practical and broke down a lot of the steps that people need to take as they're getting set up. Really quick question. Someone asked, what type of digital products does Pixetal offer?
Okay. So the products, well, really it's more of a service, I guess. So I focus on branding, website design, and UI design. I would say more often than not, I tend to do a couple things at one time. But if there are other services that you need, such as photography or copywriting, I do contract that out to trusted vendors who I know would be good for that particular project.
Nice. Then we also have a question, and this is probably everyone's question. How do you go about getting clients? I think a lot of people are probably, before they take the leap into entrepreneurship, they're probably doing this as a side hustle. So when you're actually trying to transition from part-time work to actually building a business, what's the best way to go about getting actual paying customers?
So I would say that it's going to be it is tough to have the day job and do the freelance work, or not freelance, contract work. I did both for a while. And so the important thing, I think, is you do kind of have to be present after hours, and go to these events and just and really you have to talk to people a lot more, especially when you're just getting started, because people don't know that you're doing these things. So you really have to hit the ground running hard and putting your foundation out there and talking to people. So that way, when you do eventually go from part-time to full-time running your business, you kind of have those people out there that you can get work from, or ask for referrals. But also, don't quit your day job until you do have those consistent clients. At least have some savings, have something. Because I didn't do this. When I focused on this for real and quit my full-time job, I had no savings. I've actually done this twice now, where I went full-time, went back to a job, and then quit again. My husband had to float me money to help make rent. So, have a plan, make sure that you are networking really, really hard. And what I mean by that is, like, talk to the right people in the right spaces. So I do talks like this. I highly recommend doing talks just like this. It is effort to do it, but it is one of the quickest ways to get your name out there, is just volunteer your time so people can see you.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point to call out, the fact that you do want to actually have an action plan or some savings or some cushion, because when you do transition into not freelance work, for lack of a better phrase right now, you're going to be missing out on insurance, benefits, vacation, all the little perks that come from having a job. That's on you now. So you do kind of have to strategize what your exit plan is going to be so you can hit the ground running, as you said. Quick point of clarification, Darren asked, what is UI? You said Pixel does website branding and UI design?
User interface design. So basically like in-browser app or mobile app design.
Got it. Another one here. So many people are really curious about this one, Natalie. What has been the most challenging thing about running a business?
Oh gosh, work-life balance, I would say, is the hardest, especially right now being in quarantine. My office is in my house, so it is very hard to disentangle myself from work. I'm that person that works hard and works a lot. And it's much harder to separate yourself when you work virtually. It's not like, oh, it's past 5 o'clock. I'm not going to do business now. People just kind of expect you to be available. And so I've had to get very firm with my boundaries and say, no, I'm not working past 5 o'clock or, whatever time. So for me, it's an ongoing struggle. I am getting better at it, but it's just a process to make sure that I say, this is my time now. I'm done working for the day.
So related to that, when you're working, are you charging clients based on billable hours, or are you at the point now where you're saying, this is my flat rate or this is my contracted rate? So even if I'm not working 9 to 5, I'm working 9 to 7 or 9 to 10, I know that I'm securing this amount of income, or what's the fee structure for you?
So it is kind of a mix of both. So if someone comes to me for a one-off project, it is like a flat fee. And basically, when I do the flat fee, it means I've worked out the math of how many hours I anticipate it will take, and then I've added on a buffer. You always want to have a buffer because sometimes you do deliver well within your time budget, great, and other times you just blow right through it. So it does take time to work that out, and I'm working on developing like a spreadsheet to like keep track to see like where am I blowing through, where am I, not budgeting enough hours. But I also do retainer based fees. So basically clients, we agree on a budget for that month. So let's say if someone says, oh, I have $1,000 a month to spend. And so we break that down and we say, okay, that gets you this many hours a month. And that can be used towards whatever, anything they like, for me, that means sometimes I make a t-shirt with a pig riding a lawnmower. Sometimes I do signage. So whenever someone comes to me on a retainer basis, I kind of do just whatever they ask because it falls within that window of my expertise, like of design in general. So it's really a mix between hourly pricing and flat-based pricing. Does that help?
It does help. Someone asked if we could review the slide with the rate pricing, but I think what we can also do is share the link.
Mhm.
So if you could just shoot me whatever resources you think would be helpful. I think what you had was invoiceasap.com.
Yes, and I can pull the slide back up if that's going
That
to
would
help.
be helpful too.
Maybe break it down.
Mhm.
1 second. All right, let me navigate back to that slide. So again, this is pretty rough. So basically you take the salary that you want, add your overhead because you have to pay to live and you have to pay your expenses. And then you multiply that by the profit percentage that you want. Could be 10%, could be 20%, whatever you want. And then of course, add that back to the salary and overhead combined, divide by your working weeks, and then divide by your billable hours, not your total hours, your billable hours, because those are two very different things. Like I might work 40 hours in a week, but I can guarantee you I did not bill for all those hours. If somebody's working that many billable hours, we need to talk because I haven't gotten to that point yet where I can do that many billable hours. Just doesn't happen.
So what's the difference between just regular hours and billable hours?
So billable hours means I can specifically assign it to a client project that I'm getting paid for. An unbillable hour would be like posting to my own social media. I don't get paid for that. I get paid for actually working on a client project. I can't say I did my social media and then put it on a client invoice. That would not work. So basically when I say billable time, that is literally going on a bill that a client's going to pay for.
Got it. So speaking of clients as well, what is a horror story you feel comfortable sharing when you
Ooh.
didn't have a proper contract in place?
Yes, this is a good one. So I would say the worst one so far is somebody I know asked me to do work for them. And I said, you know what? We're friends. You don't have to sign the contract. It's fine. Yeah, that's not a big deal. Did the work. They disappeared. We haven't spoken since. I haven't been able to get in touch with them. I never got paid. So I just had this mostly half finished work done because I never got, really edits for it. So, and it wasn't like, the worst part is it wasn't a lot of money. It was at a discounted rate, which don't do that either. Do not discount for friends and family. They pay full price or free. And by free, I'm very selective about who I do free work for. Usually for more nonprofit organizations or someone that's going to do a trade value with me. But yeah, I would say the worst is having someone willingly ask you to do a project and then just not pay you.
Wow.
I didn't have them sign the contract. The worst part is I had the contract, but I didn't make them sign it.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah, don't do that.
I think something that's especially difficult when you're working with visuals is a lot of time you're trading a project that could be usable. It's not in its final state, but it's usable. So how do you prevent people taking your IP, whether it's limiting revisions or watermarking your content? What are some of the things you now have in place to prevent that sort of abuse?
So basically, clients do not own anything from me until it's paid for, whether that be through a deposit or the final payment. And that's just how it works. And usually I have never run into that where someone has used my work without paying for it. I actually don't watermark anything, which is probably bad practice. But I would say have it in your contract. Basically says until you pay for this, you don't legally own it. And I would say up until this point, that has not been a problem. But, now that we're sitting here talking about it, I will probably going forward figure out some kind of fail safe. I think as long as you have it specifically in your contract, especially with logos, I know that's always the worst. Is you're always worried about someone taking it and just saying bye, and then you never see them again, and they slap it all over everything. The important thing is that you have it in your contract somewhere that it says until you pay for it, it's not yours.
Do you have lawyers?
I don't have lawyers. I just have a contract that I made myself. But I am looking into business insurance just to have something. Probably at some point, I will make some contacts to have a lawyer. I'm not a huge operation here, guys. It is just me, unless if you count the free helpful services my husband offers, or who I like to call my dog, my secretary. Terrible at his job, can't type. But it is just me here. I'm running the show, except for when I bring in other vendors to help me do work.
Got it. I'm going to follow up on vendors in a second, but we have another question here. So with many software developers, estimating their work is very difficult. So how do you estimate the prices of your work or the value of the labor that you're putting in?
This is so hard. It really is such a difficult thing, especially if you are local to Mississippi. Our cost of living is so low, and it is so hard to find even pricing anywhere online. And so what I tend to do is, and this is probably the worst way to do it, is I look at other vendors in my space, and I see, if I can, I find out how much they're charging, honestly. And I kind of compare and say, okay, is my work that good? I'm going to charge that much. So it's not an exact science. You just kind of have to kind of play it by ear. But for me, I would say what changed me to charge a lot more was I had clients telling me, you aren't charging enough. You need to be charging more. That does not happen often. But when a client tells you you aren't charging enough, you need to listen. And that's a client you need to send a thank you card, because they're giving you a wake up call. And I know development services especially it's very difficult. I would say probably try to figure out an hourly rate and just keep gradually bumping it up until you feel like it's comfortable, until you start getting pushback. Then I say that's like your sweet spot. But I can tell you that most developers I talk to locally charge between $75 to $100 an hour, from what I've seen. So if you aren't charging that much, you're not charging enough, probably.
When you're getting those sorts of stats and that type of research, are you looking at Glassdoor? Are you looking at Fiverr, Upwork?
No, I don't look at salaries. I'm looking at, I go to actual business websites and try to hunt down to see how much they're charging for projects. And I think the best thing to do is the best thing you can do is have a starting price. Basically say, I will not take on a project for less than X amount of dollars. And that can kind of help you sort of work out the type of project that fits the bill for that. For example, I'll just be very transparent. I rarely take on projects less than, $3,000. Then that's the least amount of money that I'll work for, unless if it's for a special case or someone that I know is not going to just take off. Because the type of work that I tend to do is complicated. You might think that building a website is super easy, but when you start getting into copywriting, building out a proper sitemap, having terms of use, privacy policy, all these custom things, it really adds up. And that's just kind of where I've arrived over that amount of time, because I've tracked to see, okay, how many hours did it actually take to get this done? And I had to blow through many budgets of my own hours. The client didn't pay any more. I just worked more. And then I basically, I saw where the limit was and I met it.
So when you say you're blowing through your hours, are you saying it's taking a lot longer than you anticipated?
Yes. So whenever I start a project, I give myself a soft cap of like, roughly this is about how many hours it should take. So when I'm starting to get to the end of that cap, I either need to sit down with myself and re-strategize, or, you know, if I'm not careful, I'll, you know, go way over budget. And basically that means, you know, like I said, the client's not paying anymore. You're just working less for less money per hour is what it amounts to. And your time is money. So it's just taking a process of kind of figuring out this is how long these things take. And there's no hard and fast answer for it, unfortunately. I wish there was.
So to that point, let's talk a little bit about delegation and how you're hiring a couple of contractors to do the work. How are you finding contractors and how do you evaluate them? And then how do you determine how much you're going to pay them, or do they set their own rates?
So very good question. I am very choosy about my vendors. And I think it's to my own detriment because I have trust issues. I like to only work with people that I know and that I know can produce good work. So that's where networking comes into play, is getting out there and talking to people and making these relationships. And it is always kind of like a tense moment when you work with someone for the first time as a vendor, because it's kind of scary because you're handing your work over to someone else. But I will say that I at this point in time, I do not contract out anything that I personally do. So I only contract out work that I'm not as experienced in. So I try really hard when I look for a vendor is to say, okay, who would best fit this project? I feel like that's the way to go. You want to play to the vendor's strengths. So for example, I know someone who does this certain type of photography. So when that project comes along, I'm going to tap them for it because I know they can do it the best. They've worked for me before. I know they do good work. But you do have to take that first step of getting them on that first project. And it is scary. I'm always scared whenever I work with someone for the first time because you just don't know. It could go great. It could go terrible. And so there is a little bit of experimentation, but I would say the best thing to do, tap your own network first, talk to other people, ask who they use and start there instead of just putting it out on the internet and saying, anyone who wants to work with me, please raise your hand. That I wouldn't do that. I would start with someone you trust.
So you're not going to different agencies. Okay.
Not at all. And I definitely don't recommend putting it on Twitter saying, hey, people, just hit me up, because I feel like it's just going to be a ton of messages. Without prompting, I get cold emails all the time from development agencies reaching out to me. I never read them.
Oh.
You heard it from me here first, folks. Cold emails don't work.
Wow. Okay. Noted.
I will not read them.
Wow. I might be the queen of the cold email. I am very good for hitting somebody up, but it's hit or miss, to be fair.
It is hit or miss. And I also want to follow up to that point and say, if you're going to do cold emails, don't get sassy. If someone doesn't respond to you, like, just be nice, because if you get mean with me, I'm going to get mean right back.
That's fair, because you're doing them a favor.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. A lot of questions here. Do you have to register an EIN in order to be a freelancer?
No, but if you want to be able to keep your business income separate from your day job or your personal income, yes. You literally can't open a business bank account without an EIN. They will not let you. You have to have that in place, and it's very annoying for all those hoops that you have to jump through, but it's worth it to keep those assets separate from whatever else you have going on. So you don't have to have it. I think there's like a certain amount that you don't have to count, but honestly, I wouldn't risk it. I would just go ahead and do it. Unless if an accountant tells you otherwise. Again, this is based on my own personal experience. If you're like really worried about it, I would just, talk to an accountant.
You don't need it, I guess, is the short answer, right? You could still be a sole proprietor.
I really don't know. I know it's like there's a certain price point that you don't have to report, but it's pretty low. Like I want to say it's like if it's less than $2,000, you don't have to report it. But if you're serious about this as a side hustle, you're going to blow right through that. So might as well just go ahead and get registered and be safe. Again, talk to your accountants, because I am not an accountant, I am a designer.
That's fair. But it is important to keep your business assets separate from your personal assets.
Right, because if something happens with your business, you only want those business assets to be at risk, not everything else that you have.
Yep. So short answer is it's probably not required, but it's
safer.
It's recommended. We also have a note here that you need an EIN to set up a PayPal business account. So
there you go. So you probably will need it for all these other services like payment providers. So probably just go ahead and do it. I know that it's, like I said, I've been trying for, what day is it? 4 months to get someone on the phone at the IRS so I can change my business name and my bank account. So, just go ahead and do it, because if you have to try to do it later on and have to call the IRS, it's going to be really hard for you. I'm just saying, they don't answer their phones.
And we can talk about that really quick. So I think that they're probably backed up because of COVID, obviously. But have you seen an uptick in business, or is business kind of at a stalemate right now because of the virus?
Yeah. So I've seen a huge influx in business, and I tell people that, and they're like, "Oh, that's good." And I'm like, "Yes." But also it's terrifying because it's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to manage. And the tricky thing is, when you have all this business coming in, you just want to say yes to everything because you want to just keep it all. You want to keep all the money coming in. But the worst part about that is that you become very quickly overwhelmed and split between so many projects that it's hard to be at your best and be the most productive. So what I have learned very quickly is who I want to work with and who I really don't. And I've very quickly developed like a gut feeling of, this person has red flags. We're not going to do well together. And so it's very quickly I've developed that sense of who's going to be a good client and who's not. But it's been great for me. I don't really like to advertise that because I do know that a lot of people are struggling right now. But I will say that what has saved me is my network. Is I know people who know I do good work and they refer me to other people. And that's honestly how I've kind of survived at this point. And also working with people who are, I've also worked with other agencies, not necessarily advertising agencies, but agencies that do contract out design. I've kind of become a partner with them. So that's kind of recurring work, is that I tell them, hey, I have these months open. Do you want them? What do you have coming down the pipeline? So it's worth it to establish these relationships and, get in good with people who own agencies. And I don't mean just, advertising, but communication firms, PR firms, just bigger firms that need what you do, but maybe they don't have a vendor for that yet. And they just want to contract the work out.
Which brings us to our next question. Have you ever had anyone offer you a contract to hire position?
No, not yet. And I would say that at this point in my career, unless if Adobe comes knocking, call me Adobe, or Webflow or some other big company, I would not take it. I'm really not interested at this point in my career in not owning my own business and not running everything myself. But no one's ever offered yet, I think, because they probably see how much I charge an hour and know that I'd probably ask for more or something if they had me full time. So yeah, no one's offered yet.
I guess the follow-up question, same asker here. How would you negotiate, though, theoretically, if you wanted to remain a contractor?
Instead of being a full-time hire?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a tough one. I would say probably
extending your contract.
Extending contract. Okay. I would say what I would probably do is negotiate a retainer agreement and angle it as, hey, I get booked up in advance. Normally I do get booked up about a month or two in advance. And I could say, hey, I could be consistently available for you all the time with this many hours. And they'd probably save money because hiring an employee is very expensive. It's not just paying your salary, it's paying your health insurance, it's paying incidentals, it's paying for your equipment. It's way more expensive for them to hire you as an employee, as a contractor. So maybe say, hey, for this many hours a month, I'm so productive that I could do the same amount of work as an actual employee because you're only paying me for the hours that I'm working. Because with a full-time employee, they're not working all of those hours every time. That includes breaks, that includes lunchtime. So it's a better deal for them. So that's probably what I would do, is negotiate a retainer agreement.
That makes sense. And you bring up a lot of good points. As an employee, you get so much stuff. So as a company, it's more to your advantage to have me on board as a contractor. But from the perspective of a business owner, what makes it more worthwhile to you to own your own business as opposed to being a well-compensated employee that has all these other things that you can take advantage of?
I would say, I mean, it's changed since COVID, but I would say for me, the most important thing is I get to control my own environment. I'm very introverted. Sticking me in an office with a bunch of other people is a surefire way to make me unhappy. I get to be at home or at the coffee shop, or I'm at like my parents' house right now, just because I'm house sitting. But I can do that. I can work wherever I want. I can work when I want. No one is telling me you must be at your desk by 9 a.m. Usually that's when I start, but if I don't feel like it, I don't have to. It's just about controlling my own life and controlling my own schedule. Am I always the best at it? No. But basically, I get to call all the shots, and it would have to be a lot of money to get me to give that up. Not to mention, any expenses that, well, not any, I would say expenses that your accountant will let you deduct. That's deductible from your income. Like I get to buy things for my office and write that off. I just recently upgraded a lot of my equipment, and it was not cheap to do so. So because I can write that off, it doesn't hurt as much later when I have to pay taxes. So the benefits kind of add up here. I will say though, the hardest part has been kind of being isolated from people. I don't really get to talk to others that much in a meaningful way. I talk to clients all day long, but as far as like making friends with coworkers, I don't really get to do that as much. So that is one thing that I miss, but I'm working on making that better.
And a lot of people seem to agree with that sentiment. A lot of folks are saying that they enjoy that freedom as well. So definitely understand that. Do you plan on expanding your business? And how do you get more training, more experience, continued education?
Mhm. So continued education, I'm always trying to be part of discussions about design and in the industry. I follow industry leaders, try to read about what they have to say. I'm such a huge nerd for tech, honestly, that it's not hard to just put something in front of me and be like, this new cool thing, go look at it. And I'm all over it. I'm going to read about it. I try to educate myself as much as possible. Whenever I run into obstacles, I just educate myself and I read articles. I would say for me, my main sources a lot of it comes from other designers who were like at a higher level. And I would say that's where you really benefit from following industry leaders like on Instagram or Twitter or wherever, is because they're going to drop nuggets of information you didn't think about and you can learn from that. I also do a lot of workshops that I kind of sit in on, or I go to conferences. And I actually recently hired a career coach to help me grow and scale, because that's kind of where I'm kind of hitting a pain point where I'm getting booked out so often that I'm having to turn down work, and it's not always work that I don't want. Sometimes it is work that I do want. So I do kind of have my eyes on the future of how to scale. But I'm not sure what that looks like yet. I do know that I don't ever want a physical office where I have to be in there at a certain time. I'd have to see other people in the face. It's not that I hate people. I just don't want to see you all day.
That's fair. And we have one more question that's actually pretty practical and related to the business side of things. But is there a specific software that you use to add and remove watermarks on your projects?
No. What I would do is export. So for example, a lot of my projects end up as PDFs. So probably what I would do personally, because I'm aware of subscription creep. I refuse to pay for another service to add a watermark. Probably what I would do is take it into Photoshop and just add a watermark on top of that in Photoshop and then re-export it as a PDF or something of that nature. So it really depends on what works for you. I'm just very highly aware of subscription fees, and I will not pay $5 for that. I will do it myself.
That's fair. That's very fair. They'll sneak up on you after 14 days or 1 month.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's another good point, is like always assess your subscriptions, because if you're paying for them and not using them, that's money down the toilet. You're losing that money.
Yeah. Well, Natalie, you've been so helpful. I think I speak for everyone when I say that we've learned so much.
It was a lot of information. I'm tired of talking.
Well, we're not tired of listening, so we'll be happy to have you on for another session whenever you're ready.
Awesome.
I'm going to make a couple of announcements. So next week is our second anniversary celebration, next Saturday, October 17th. So from 10:30 till 12:30 p.m., we'll be having a gift bag giveaway. And that's mainly for the youth. We have cool things like a Lego set, jelly beans, mask, hand sanitizer, some green bean seeds. And then after that, we'll have a virtual event immediately following from 12:30 until 1:30 p.m. And there we're going to have teacher awards, tech demonstrations, special performance by Fifth Child, and prize raffles. And we're also holding a couple of raffles on social media right now. So if you follow us on Instagram at The Bean Path or on Facebook at facebook.com/thebeanpath, we're giving away 3 $40 Amazon gift cards. So you want to be sure to go ahead and enter for that. And we're also raffling a couple of larger prizes. If you are under the age of 18 or if you're a student, you can go ahead and sign up for either a Chromebook or an Amazon Echo Dot or a Raspberry Pi kit, which is really cool. You can make your own computer. So if any of those things are of interest to you, the prizes are worth $200 to $300. Go ahead and sign up on our raffle page, and we're going to announce those winners at our virtual celebration. Again, that's going to be next Saturday, October 17th, and you can find more information at thebeanpath.org. So thank you all so much. That's all.
Bye. Thanks, everybody. Had a great time.